Oh, the 80s cartoons. What was your favorite cartoon from the 80s? And if you're a Star Wars fan, then you know that there was a Droids cartoon starring C-3PO and R2-D2. And today, we go over some interesting facts about that short-lived cartoon series and the toys that came from it. And also, some interesting political facts that brought toys to the kids of the 80s. So let's go. Welcome back to the journey. And if you've been following my quest to complete the Kenner Star Wars figures from 1977 to 1985, then you know that I've covered some pretty interesting historical facts about this toy line. And this being a channel that celebrates vintage Star Wars, sometimes I like to take a look outside of the toy line. And that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna go over some facts about the Saturday morning cartoon line that was the Droids. The Adventures of C-3PO and R2-D2. And before we get into it, please make sure you like and subscribe to this channel to see more Star Wars content. Before the 1980s, children's television was very regulated, and in 1968, the Action for Children's Television was formed to improve and protect the quality of children's programming. Seeking to safeguard children from violence or inappropriate situations, they are responsible for approving children's cartoons such as Scooby-Doo. During the 70s, ACT would spend money on research campaigns on the effect that advertising would have on children and the potential damage that could come from it. Their conclusion? That children can't tell the difference between a commercial and a cartoon, and were deeply influenced by the repetition and timing of these ads during the cartoons. And advertising agencies already knew this, having spent millions of dollars on research themselves decades earlier. So ACT put in place several regulations that made the Federal Communications Commission, or the FCC, change the way that broadcasters and advertisers handled commercials. Stations had to have at least 14 hours of children's programming a week, no commercials during children's shows, and hosts could not sell any form of product during the show. They also needed to disclose when the show was going to a commercial break, such as, "After these messages, we'll be right back." Through the 70s, this was commonplace. Until the year 1980. Ronald Reagan became president of the USA. And let's just be clear, this show is not about politics. But to understand the cartoons of the 80s, we need to understand the first big act of the Reagan administration. Reagan appointed Mark Fowler as the new head of the FCC. And the first big change? Deregulation. And especially in the way that advertisers and broadcast companies handled children's programming, basically reversing everything that ACT had fought to put in place. ACT did put up a fight, but we don't have to go over how that went. Captain Kangaroo went away, so did Schoolhouse Rock, as well as dozens of well-loved children's shows. So what did take their place? Cartoon lines that had licensable characters. A 300% jump in them, as a matter of fact. And this is historic for the toy industry and toy collectors to know this, because without this deregulation, we would not have gotten G.I. Joe, Transformers, He-Man, and the Care Bears. How else would we have gotten Rubik, the amazing cube? Toy manufacturers were now intensely involved in the production and marketing of the new cartoons and children's programming, and even our food consumption during the 80s. And one of these shows to join this new cast of programming was The Droids, The Adventures of R2-D2 and C-3PO. In the grand scheme of things, the cartoon series takes place in between the events of Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, and was produced by the Nelvana Company on behalf of Lucasfilm, because at the time, Lucasfilm Animation was not properly set up to handle productions like this. Nelvana was also responsible for producing the Ewoks cartoon series, and if you want to watch my review of that, here's the link up in the corner, and there's also one down in my description. The series ran for one season with 13 half-hour episodes and a 1-hour special in 1986 that served as a series finale. It was paired with the Ewoks cartoon series in a block called Ewoks and Droids Adventure Hour, and premiered on September 7th, 1985 on ABC. The opening theme music, entitled In Trouble Again, was produced by Stuart Copeland of The Police. The series starred Anthony Daniels reprising his role as C-3PO and an uncredited Ben Burt as the voice of R2, with most of the sound effects being reused from the sound archives from Lucasfilm. The 13 episodes can really be broken up into 3 mini-stories of 4 to 5 episodes each story, as the droids end up in the care of 3 different masters. The first 4 episodes, we find the droids have been abandoned by a mean master, and they're found in the desert by 2 speed bikers, Thal Jobin and Jor Dusat, and later they team up with a rebel spy named Kia Mal that's trying to stop the evil From gang, who are not that threatening as far as the Empire would be. The leader of this gang goes by Tig, or Tiggy, and is a bit of a whiner. But we can clearly see that Thal and Jord were the inspiration for the biker gang portrayed in the Book of Boba Fett. In these first 4 episodes, we're introduced to a slew of new characters, including the evil Vlix, Dema, who's the mother of Kia, and we see a cameo by Boba Fett. The animation, even though rough in today's standards, I would have loved as a child. The characters and colors were bold, and although there's some awkward pacing and dialogue pauses, the 8-year-old in me would have loved this cartoon. The next 5 episodes, we find the droids with an unnamed android on another desert planet, only this time being rescued from an auction and bought by their new master, Jan Tosh. He brings them back to his uncle, the very Yosemite Sam-like Putch Gundarian. They find out that the android is actually a prince in disguise named Mon Jalupa. A crime lord named Kleb Zelek is also on the hunt for the prince. Kleb is harvesting Negron 14, which are used in the Empire's proton torpedoes. With the help of a character named Solig, who wants to rescue the prince, they all escape. Along with the freighter pilot named Jessica Meade, they go on an adventure to place Mon Jalupa back on his throne. We encounter more bad guys, one that goes by the name of Kybo Ren. Yes, that's right, Kybo Ren. IG-88 makes a cameo in this story as well. And by the end of episode 9, once again, we find R2 and 3PO masterless and on their own. And film director Joe Johnston, who got his start in special effects at ILM, co-wrote episode 9. And the next 4 episodes were the ones that I enjoyed the best. The stories were conceived by Ben Burt. On episode 10, we find the droids with their new master, Galaxy Merchant Mungo Baobab. This series of episodes finds the droids joining their master hunting for runestones. And after some encounters and adventures evading the Empire, we find that this series of episodes has the deepest and honestly the most satisfying character arcs in the whole first season. I won't give away too much of the plots in case you want to go check these out, and you have to at least check out the last 4, and if you get a chance to, also watch the 1-hour special entitled The Great Heap with the story written by Ben Burt. And the one thing I will say about the Droids cartoon and basically the entire series is that other than the last 4 episodes and the 1-hour special, the rest are really hard to watch and enjoy. The animation for the time I think was great, but if I wasn't watching this to review it, I would have just preferred to watch the final 4 episodes and the series finale, and I would have been just fine just watching that. But putting my 8-year-old self into this review, he would have loved it. I mean, after all, it was a chance to revisit the world of Star Wars. There was a short-lived comic series that came out right after the series ended, but with the same premise as the cartoon. The fact that R2 and C-3PO went masterless until they found one, went on an adventure, and then were left to find another master, but at least the last 3 comics were interesting as they tell the story of A New Hope from the viewpoint of the droids. So if you get a chance to check those out, please do. But the coolest thing to come out of that cartoon series was indeed the toys. And we got 12 figures that were officially released in the first wave of the toys. And just like the Power of the Force line, each came with a collector's coin, a gold one. The card art depicts a scene each carded character was featured in. R2-D2 with a new sticker application with the pop-up saber feature, and in my opinion is one of the nicest looking figures in all of the Kenner line. Same with C-3PO, who dons bright colors in yellow and blue instead of his usual chrome. Boba Fett is a repack from his earlier Kenner run, but it would have been great to get him in the same color treatment from the cartoon, but we didn't. Other characters in the series are Jan Tosh, Jor Dusat, Kia Mal, Kez Iban, Size From, Thal Jobin, Tig From, Uncle Gundy, the A-Wing pilot, which is also a repack from the Power of the Force line of toys, and the only figure to be released in Wave 2 and only released in Brazil by the Glasslight Factory, is arguably one of the most coveted action figures for collectors to have, Flix. And even though the characters never wielded weapons in the series, they are all included with weapons for these figures. There were supposed to have been a total of 20 figures released in the complete waves, and for some collectors who have found these prototypes, those items are a definite score because they are out there, mostly being sold by the private collections of Kenner employees and those close to the inner workings of Kenner in the late 80s. And there's been a recent reboot and release of these nostalgic looking figures and cards and are available in wide release at stores, but there will never be anything more coveted than the real thing. And just in case you were wondering, in the 90s, the broadcast companies and the advertising agencies were faced with regulations once again that tried to reverse the deregulation of the 80s, although there were a ton of loopholes that were taken advantage of. And today, I'm gonna get a figure from that series. Well, technically, the A-Wing pilot. First released in the Power of the Force line of toys in 1985. The card art depicts the A-Wing ship that was never released during the regular run of the toys in support of the movies, but rather in the Droids line of toys. It comes with the solid black Endor blaster, and this is true for both releases of figures from the Power of the Force and Droids, so make sure that if you get this figure, it's not with the other variant of the Endor blaster in the blue-gray colors. Make sure it's black. Current prices that have sold on eBay are showing highs around the $425 mark and lows around the $325 mark. And I was able to get one from a local private seller for $215 and with the correct black Endor blaster, which I had to take to a local shop to get verified as authentic. And on top of that, the collector sold the coin with it, included in the price. As you can see, there is fading in the arms and legs, but looking closer at the hands, eyebrows, and the silver chest plate, there is some very minor paint scuffs that are noticeable if you have pristine reference photos available for comparison. And I'm not going to grade this figure, but these paint scuffs are things that you need to look out for if you're considering buying one or you want to send one in for a grade. And as far as the variants go for this figure, according to the variant villain, Kenner was the only licensee to produce this figure at one factory, so there is only one known variant. And I love reading the back of the coins, and this one says, "Brave rebel pilot of the awesome A-Wing fighter took an active part in successful attack on the new, more powerful Death Star. May the Force be with you." So let's cross this figure and the coin off of our list that we got from a local San Diego collector, and we got that for an even price of $215, which is a great deal at today's market prices. It's still a high price for a small action figure, but to get one for that price in today's market, that's a win for me, and I'll take all the deals I can find on this run. So let's place the A-Wing pilot and its coin in our collector displays case. And I have an exciting announcement to make. The owner of Collector Displays has been generous enough to host a giveaway on this channel. And we are giving away the exact same case that I have. There is no cost to enter, and there is no shipping cost to whoever wins this. And I'm gonna make an announcement on a future episode very, very soon. So you have to be a subscriber to this channel in order to enter and win. And you have to follow Collector Displays on Instagram, and you have to follow me on Instagram as well, because we're gonna make some announcements on how you can enter on those pages as well. And the links for Collector Displays social media and my social media are down there in that description. So join me on all my social media to make sure you stay up to date on all those announcements, because this is a huge giveaway. And if you're looking for collecting supplies to complete your collection, please visit thepadawancollector.com. You're gonna find free downloads of my visual checklists. Yes, they are for free. So be sure to visit and explore the website. And if you enjoyed this episode, and who doesn't like to learn about politics with their toys, please give it a like. That does support the channel. And please consider subscribing if you want to see more Star Wars collecting content from me. And also hit that notification bell so you know when episodes go live. I post videos every Sunday with bonus content throughout the week. And as always, my friends, thank you, and I will see you next time. If you're new to the channel, check out the welcome video, or just check out the next episode. And please subscribe if you want to follow the journey. And remember, there is no shame in being a Padawan.